on these apartment complexes or kind of commercial deals, I think people look at the purchase price and then it kind of spooks them and maybe I'll just go back to residential. But what are some ways you guys or your clients are structuring these deals to make them work? And whether that's a down payment amount or maybe some seller carry financing, could you share some creative solutions to?
Yeah, I know at least in the apartment syndication, it's essentially pulling together investor funds. So we raise capital through calling investors, reaching out to people who maybe want more of a passive income and don't want to be hands-on, either because they don't have the time or they're over dealing with that. Maybe they want to spend more time with their kids or do things like that, and so they're looking for a passive income. And so we raise capital, and so it's not like you're doing it all by yourself. You're doing it with a whole group of investors, and you're getting returns through that. And so that's how we structure our deals. And then we, of course, go through the agency debt. And so we like that because it's a non-recourse loan, meaning we have no fault if something were to happen, worst case scenario, foreclosure. And so that's kind of the debt that we go down. There's also something called a bridge loan, which my mentors have advised me against because it fluctuates and it's not as dependable as the agency debt. And yeah, but yeah.
You mentioned seller financing, which is also another sort of more accessible way for folks to begin investing. Kaya mentioned the apartment syndication where you're working with other investors to deploy the funds with each other. Seller financing is where the seller is acting more like the bank, and so they'll structure it as a certain amount of down payment. It could be more than you want, or it could be a better deal. Sometimes it helps to bring people to the table when they can come in at a smaller down payment. They'll have an interest rate associated with that hopefully is better than maybe the mortgage brokers could offer.
Probably, yes.
And then you set up a time, maybe it's 2 years, 3 years, 10 years, where you then go after that balloon payment, which you would then access a mortgage broker to then pay that seller off. But it's a way to, the seller, if they're thinking along those lines, it's a way for them to keep that money, that money coming in because they're essentially the bank getting that interest. So that's another way that you can get in a little bit more accessible way.
Yeah, also a lot of investors like to use that because they're able to purchase more properties because it's not shown like with a bank. So a lot of people like to do that to do more. And I personally, before I got into apartment syndication, I was going down the route of seller financing, looking for a duplex, all of that type of thing. And I think that seller financing is a great option, and it's pretty flexible. You get to make your own rules, and like she said, you get typically a better interest rate.